Please won't you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts together find their way into the heart of God this morning. Amen. So I entitled this sermon months ago maybe, Savoring a Delicious Blessing, after that beautiful poem that Roy read for us earlier that I found in this beautiful book of poetry called How to Love the World. And I commend it all to you because it's just gorgeous and all the poems in it are perfect. And anyway, so I was trying to figure out what I was going to preach this morning about savoring a delicious blessing. And I don't know about all of you. Raise your hand if you have heard the Corn Kid and the Corn song. Just raise your hand. Okay, so some of you, not a lot of you. But that's okay because I'm going to tell you about it. There was a viral video starring an adorable child that has briefly united the entire world in shared understanding called It's Corn. The child, whose first name is Tariq, and who also goes by CEO of Corn, appeared in a video called Recess Therapy a few weeks ago. And Recess Therapy is a man-on-the-street style interview show on which all the guests are children. So Tariq is maybe 5. He's missing a front tooth, and he's... Right, all of his front teeth, yes. He's got nothing up there. Yeah, so maybe 6, I don't know. Whatever age that is where you are missing all of your teeth before, you're old. And he's in a park in Brooklyn, and he's eating corn on the cob, and he has this speech impediment, and he can't pronounce his R's, which is true of a lot of children that age. So he says, "It's cone!" Ever since I was told that cone was real, it tasted good, he explains. And his grandmother is cracking up in the background, and he says, "I can't imagine a more beautiful thing of corn." And the video's host, Recess Therapy creator Julian Shapiro Barnum, asks him to describe corn to someone who has never heard of it. And he says, "A big lump with knobs." And he says it so excitedly, "It's a big lump with knobs." And then the interviewer asks, "Why do you like it so much?" And Tariq answers, "It has the juice." And then he says, when I tried it with butter, everything changed." It's so true. At the end of the video, Tariq tells everyone watching to have a cone-tastic day. And then he behaves as if baffled by the host's open-mouth laugh. "What?" he asks. "It's just a pun about cone." Oh my gosh. So you can see why this video was so popular. It was so popular that a group made a song about corn using Tariq's voice and auto-tune. And the corn song has been in countless videos dubbed Corn Talk on TikTok. And so there's jazz versions of it and Broadway versions and rock and pop and folk and punk versions of the song. And they've been made, what?
And a corn wedding march.
And a corn wedding march, yeah, somebody walked down the aisle to it. Middle school choirs have already learned it. He's been on Good Morning America and on NPR, and everyone in my house, because it is corn season, right? Are we all eating corn on the cob every night? We are eating corn on the cob every night in my house. So we've been singing it every single time Andy makes corn on the cob, which is every night. So we sing, "It's cone, a big lump with knobs, it has the juice, it has the juice." Can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's corn. I can tell you all about it. I mean, look at this thing. When I tried it with butter, everything changed, right? See, they know it. I'm not making this up. It's a song. Go home and Google it. Anyway, we love Tariq because the corn kid knows how to savor a delicious blessing, right? It has the juice. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. He's bringing psalmist energy to his passion for corn. He describes something so ordinary with such great enthusiasm, with zealous evangelism, with knowledge of the transformative power of butter so high he cannot attain it. Like the psalmist talking about God's love, Corn Kid can't imagine a more beautiful thing. And I don't know this, but I imagine that kid Tariq is loved so beautifully and so well by his parents that he is able to have that kind of delicious enthusiasm to savor the blessing of corn. So E.B. White says this famously, or something like this. He says, "I arise in the morning torn between a desire to save the world and a desire to savor the world. This makes it hard to plan the day." It's only the people who savor the world, like the Corn Kid, the people who savor the ordinary and extraordinary stuff of the earth that God made, the people who love the imperfectly perfect people walking around upon this earth that God made, those are the people who will save it. It's not the saviors, it's the savorers. We cannot save what we do not love, right? We can only love God as much as we love the world. We can only love the world as much as we love each other. We can only love each other as much as we love ourselves. So I am embarrassed to say this out loud. This is confessional preaching. I would guess that I spend about, this isn't scientific because I'm very bad at math, but 30% of my waking hours thinking about and despising what I look like. Oh, thank you for laughing. That must mean you think that I'm so pretty. But specifically, I think constantly about my weight. I don't think I'm alone. I think there are other women in particular, or people who identify as female who might experience this as well, but I think there are men too, and people all along the gender spectrum. I thought this tendency towards self-hate and self-obsession, frankly, would go away when I reached my mid-40s. Is that silly and naive? Yes. People in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s are like, yes. Got worse, yes. It has gotten worse. So I still wake up in the morning not torn between a desire to save the world or savor it, but with a desire to lose weight. It is a profoundly self-involved tendency. I think about diets I could go on and when I should start, then I Google them, then I say terrible things to my image in the mirror. I try not to say any of these things out loud near my daughters so that they can hear. And then I eat, and then I shame myself for eating too much or eating the wrong thing, and then I shame myself for shaming myself because I know it's wrong, right? I sometimes think about what I would do with all of that time if I got it back. Would I read more novels? Would I write the next great American novel? Would I go on more walks? Would I enjoy my family more? Would I love my work better and more effectively? Would I brainstorm new ministries that might make a difference in the community? Would I save someone's life? Would I be kinder? You might spend a great deal of your day in similar negative self-talk. Maybe the words directed at the mirror come from people in your past, they often do, who've said things to you that did not communicate love, right? Maybe you say things to yourself you would never say to your worst enemy. Things like you're ugly, you're stupid. If you had more money or confidence, you could talk to that woman, or if you weren't so unambitious and lazy, you could have gotten that promotion. I don't know what it is, but there might be something for you. And I don't know about you, but spending a good percentage of my waking hours wishing I were different or better or smarter or thinner just makes me anxious and frustrated and sad and most of all lonely. It's no wonder we use the precious time we have on this earth acting out our feelings of alienation, looking for reasons to be angry on the internet, finding human gods who are avatars for our fury and our fear, making cruel yard signs and staking them in our grass, shouting expletives at other drivers on the road. We do not love ourselves. Perhaps if we loved ourselves more, we would be less apt to, as Michael Gerson says, to ignore the cries of the ill, poor, and abused, and honor the unerasable image of God we see in one another. We could get some of that wasted time back. We could use it for good. In the poem we read today, a child savors the delicious blessing of her father's loving gaze. As she pretends to sleep, he is standing long and long in the doorway, counting her breaths, taking care not to wake her. She will remember that feeling her whole life of being watched over, of secretly looked in on, even as she sleeps. That father's gaze is all the more beautiful because he's changed his daughter's diaper and he's wiped her tears after she fell, and he's put her in time out for hitting her brother. And he will, in a couple of years, catch her drinking underage and forgive her for it. The good news, the psalmist says, is that we were created by a God who knows absolutely everything about us and loves us anyway. Just like that father who watches over his child, counting her breaths. Our call is simply to savor this truth like a delicious blessing. It has the juice. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. For many of us, this is easier said than done. Seeing ourselves the way God sees us is virtually impossible because our love, our human love, is so conditional. We know ourselves. We've seen ourselves naked. We've participated in all of our own sins and harms and foibles. And we are hopelessly unforgiving. And so we want to hide. And being known this intimately by God can feel threatening for that reason. After all, we go to great lengths every day to hide the parts of us that cause shame. When asked how we are, we answer what? Fine. We cover up the truth about our suffering with small talk. We smear our faces with contour to avoid people seeing what we really look like. We help other people so as not to be perceived as people in need of help. We post pictures of our well-dressed families on Instagram at golden hour in a field, but don't tell anyone about our tweens and teens' scars from cutting. We stay closeted. We stay guarded. We are careful and private. We call this pride, but the results are a profound and gnawing loneliness. The truth is that our greatest desire is not to hide who we are, to be loved, but to be fully known and loved anyway. The psalmist praises God precisely because he is known by God. "O Lord, you know me," he says. "You are acquainted with all of my ways. You know what genius thing I'm about to say or that I'm about to put my foot royally into my mouth before I even utter a word. You surround me on all sides. You do not pull away from holding me, no matter how many mistakes I've made. Everywhere I go, there you are, like a shadow that follows me in and out the door. You are with me when I succeed. You are with me when I'm embarrassed by defeat. You are with me when I'm scared. You are with me when I'm courageous. You are with me when I bag out of my commitments and when I faithfully fulfill them. You are there when I say a cruel word and when I ask for forgiveness. You are with me when I get promoted. You are with me when I get fired. You are with me when I get married and when I get divorced. You are with me as I run my first marathon on, and when I received my first cancer diagnosis. Even the dark is not dark to you, O God. You watch over me as I lie down and hide my identity to others, and you stand with me as I say the hard truth that sets me free. I come to an end, and you are still with me. You don't expect my perfection, only that I show up for my life. You are with me when I was born, and you will be with me when I die. I praise you, for I am what? Fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, the word fearfully doesn't mean quite the same thing in Hebrew as it does in English. It comes from the verbal root yara, which means awe, reverent respect, and honor. A better translation of the word might be reverently. And wonderfully comes from the verbal root pala, which means in Hebrew to be different, striking, remarkable, outside of the power of human comprehension. So, beloved, God did not make a mistake when God made you. God made you intricately and holy reverence to be indescribably different and remarkable, unlike anyone else. God wrote you into the narrative to be used for the world's healing. You were not made to pay bills and lose weight. You were created as a remarkable blessing. Give yourself that time back. It's Jesus' job to save. It's your job to savor. And we know that Jesus commands, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And we can only love God as much as we love the world. We can only love the world as much as we love each other. We can only love each other as much as we love ourselves. So savor being watched over and adored by the inescapable God who knows and loves you. When you look in the mirror, look beyond the imperfections to the unerasable image of God you see there. Look for that same unerasable image in your neighbor, and then you will be called repairers of the breach, co-creators of heaven on earth. And then all flesh shall see the salvation of God. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. Amen.